Jason Villalba is our guest. He is both a state representative representing Northeast Dallas, and he is a lawyer, which was why he was tied up in a lawyer meeting, I guess. And we wanted to talk to him about you're being quoted as being, if I got this right, Mr. Villalba, thank you for joining us, but being quoted as being unhappy with some of what the Republican State Convention did this last weekend?
Well, that may be a different characterization than what I would say. I would say that we went to the convention this year looking for some vision and perspective and some optimism, and I think what we came away with was a situation where the tent became a little smaller than it was when we came in, and that troubles me. I mean, does it make me unhappy? I don't know if I'd go that far, but I'm concerned about the future of the party, particularly when we begin to alienate some future voters like Hispanics, and also, I know with the reparative therapy language that was added, some others may be disgruntled with what is in there today. So, look, we've got some work to do. We want to expand the tent, the big tent that Reagan was so proud of, and I don't believe you can build a party by subtraction.
What was the final outcome on the guest worker program support?
So where we ended up with, as you recall back 2 years ago, we added the guest worker program into the platform. It was called the Texas Solution. Well, what happened this time was they removed it completely and actually went backwards even 2 more years, so 4 years ago now, and added back language regarding sanctuary cities and no tuition subsidies for non-residents or unauthorized residents. That kind of language had been taken out last time and was added back in. And as you might imagine, I don't believe that's a good idea for the party. I think it offends some of our neighbors that live here as citizens, and I think it also means that in the future when we're looking to have outreach efforts to Hispanics and the Hispanic community, I think people are going to find that problematic to join our party if we do not seem to be cordial with respect to these kinds of issues.
What exactly was the problem with that you disagreed with about the immigration issue?
Well, the problem that I have with the platform, the issue that I have is removing this plank that is a common sense approach to dealing with 11 million unauthorized residents who are here. Look, I am not in favor of amnesty. I'm in favor of vigorous border control. But we've got 11 million people who are already on the ground, and we have to figure out a way to have a solution that works for Americans first, but also can accommodate what we're doing. Now, I don't believe necessarily in a path to citizenship, but letting folks come over to work, as long as they, aren't breaking the law, assimilate into the culture, pay taxes. To me, that just seems like common sense.
I don't understand how that would affect the voter base at all. You're talking about having Mexican citizens come to work in the United States. How would that? I mean, even many Hispanics, that's not an issue for them. I don't understand how that becomes an issue that would alienate Hispanic Americans who are citizens and voting in this country.
Well, I think the reason it alienates folks is because what we did at the convention, what the plank says, is we would not have that plan. We would not have the ability for people to come up here and work. And so we're actually eliminating that as a possibility for Mexicans to come and work here. So I think a number of Hispanic citizens in Texas have relatives and neighbors and family members and friends who are here now working, and they're adhering to the law. They're doing the right thing, but they got here illegally. And so what the plan would say is those people can work here so long as they register and pay back taxes, those kinds of things. But now we've taken that off the table, and we're saying is that the new plan is to deport everybody.
I'm reading that is not true at all. I'm reading the Republican platform at all, and it says that we oppose mass deportation. We oppose any form of mass deportation. It also says that they oppose amnesty. We oppose any form of amnesty to include any granting of legal status to a person in this country illegally. I don't think you're characterizing that right when we're saying that the Republicans are for mass deportation. It's clearly part of the plank saying that's not what they believe.
Well, during the debates, there were several amendments that were put forth that did include mass deportation. If I've mischaracterized that component of it, I apologize.
I just read that to you.
No, but it does say no amnesty, and the way they define amnesty is any kind of work visa. So
that's not what it says at all. It says we oppose any form of amnesty to include any granting of legal status to persons in the country illegally.
Well, but the consequence of that is they have to leave.
What does that mean to you? To me, what that means is if you are in this country and you are working and you could otherwise get a green card or some other authorization to work, then the plank says, or the party plank says, you will not have that and you cannot work here. You will have no legal status. And so I don't believe amnesty to me means that one day you are illegal, and then somebody waves a magic wand, and then the next day you are legal.
Actually, it's never worked that way. We've had amnesty one time, and that time was under President Reagan. I was in the Border Patrol at the time, and at that time it was said there was going to be one amnesty and never another one. And now we have people going back, and that was the only reason that law was passed. And it was never a magic wand. It was about a 4-year process to receive amnesty. And there's so much fraud involved in this now that it's very difficult to determine.
Let me,
Mr. So I'm not arguing whether or not we should have amnesty or not. I'm arguing what the definition actually is. To me, it's not amnesty if you're saying you have the opportunity to be in this country to work. You're not going to become a citizen. You're just going to be able to work. Now, are you saying you're against that?
Well, common sense would say if you're here in violation of the law, that needs to be dealt with first. Secondly, if you want to file, you go out and file the way everybody else does from outside the country, not inside the country. Thirdly, getting permission to work is permission to work. But anything that leads to citizenship for people, for people who came into the country illegally, common sense would say that doesn't make sense. And if you don't, then what are you creating?
What about legal status? What about legal status?
Allowing people. Allowing some people to have a worker status, that's fine, but you don't come to America, sneak past, break the laws, and then say, okay, I'm in, ollie auction free, now let me work. That was the whole point of them coming to start with, that and to getting the free benefits. So what I would say is, what the original plan was, back under Reagan, was you had to leave the country, you filed from outside the country, and then if you could make your case, you came in. But this, right now, we have open doors. We have people flooding into this country because of this promise of amnesty.
Well, we don't have a promise of amnesty. There is no amnesty on the books today.
It's implicit in what's being said.
We're almost out of time, and I have a question. But if you go to Newsmax, it was actually linked on Drudge. But there's an article that Newsmax has quoting a couple of Central American newspapers, quoting administration officials saying, yeah, if you get here, it's going to, quoting people saying, if you get to the U.S., it's going to be okay. So there is some sort of publicity in Central America.
Well,
I think
that's clearly a problem. And look, let me just say, I agree largely with what you're saying. We need to secure the borders. We need to stop people from coming into our country illegally. We need to put the necessary resources in place to take care of that issue. I'm just saying that I don't think it makes complete sense to eliminate in our party platform at least a common sense approach. Now, I didn't explain to you what I believe a common sense approach would be, but I do believe that we've got to figure out how we deal with 11 million folks.
Mr. Villalba, thank you very much. I don't want to take any more of your time. We're way over our time, but thank you again. And
great. Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir. Jason Villalba is a lawyer in Dallas. He also represents Northeast Dallas in the state legislature. Once again, I thought we'd get it wrapped up in about 10 minutes, and it'd be 10 hours. We still couldn't cover it all. But maybe the listeners have an idea on what they think about all that. I'm for a guest worker program. I understand the reasons against it, but I also think immigration is not the hottest issue on the table. Although the Northeast press is obsessed by it.
Contrary to what he says, I don't think it's even an issue with Hispanics. First of all, you're not talking about Hispanics who are living here and working here as citizens. You're talking about non-voters. So what is the concern about entertaining non-voters who he says he doesn't ever want to vote? It doesn't make sense to me. It sounds to me like it's a made-up issue. And certainly, his characterization does not represent the plank in the Republican Party. He misstated it.
You're listening to 710 KURV.